Everyone. My name is Courtney Weatherby. I'm the Deputy Director at the Stimson Center Southeast Asia program. I'm just here to let you know we're going to get started very momentarily. We're giving everyone a minute or two to come in from the waiting room, so please hold tight in the audience and we'll get started shortly. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We're just giving everyone a minute or two to come in from the waiting room. So please hang tight and we'll get started momentarily. We look forward to a very exciting and thoughtful discussion today. I'm going to be handling things behind the scenes. So if you have any questions during today's seminar, please feel free to drop the note into the Q&A box. Brian and I will coordinate to pull questions from there during the Q&A session. But in the meantime, I believe we're starting to see a slowdown in people coming in from the waiting room. So Brian, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you to get started, and I look forward to today's discussion.
Thank you, Courtney. Greetings, everyone. My name is Brian Eiler. I'm the director of the Stimson Center Southeast Asia program. And on behalf of the Mekong U.S. Partnership, the Stimson Center and IUCN, I want to welcome you to this report launch for the first report of the Track 1.5 policy dialogues. Today, we're joined by an exemplary and stellar cast of panelists and speakers who will speak directly to the importance of U.S. engagement in the Mekong, as well as the wide area of opportunity for engaging in the Mekong. Today we have with us Senior Bureau Official Kin Moy from the State Department. He is the U.S. top diplomat for the Indo-Pacific. We have His Excellency Chum Sum Ri, Ambassador to the Kingdom of Cambodia to the United States, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Cambodia to the United States. His Excellency Hakim, who is Ambassador of Vietnam to the United States, as well as Ms. Nguyen Thi Khang, who is the Executive Director of Green ID Vietnam, Mr. Bun Tan Nong Sak Chantalat, who is the Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Laos in Washington here, and then finally, Mr. James Compton, who is the project lead on USAID wildlife traps and traffic. So what are we launching today? It's the focus of this event is the launch of a report that summarizes the findings of the first gathering of the Mekong U.S. Partnership Track 1.5 policy dialogue process. This is the first of 6 or 7 dialogues that we're going to be holding over the next 3 years. And the first was held in March of this year, and we convened over 180 individuals from the region, from the United States, from development partner countries, to engage in a listening exercise. You know, your first efforts are always the best time to kind of set the stage and to understand how processes and opportunities should play out in the future. So we listened. We listened to local stakeholders. And in fact, we had over 35 presentations across a number of panels that focused on issues like connectivity, on energy and infrastructure, on nature-based solutions, transboundary water governance, and non-traditional security issues such as wildlife trafficking, illicit drug trade reduction, and importantly, pandemic response. Now, you might notice that I left climate out of that list of themes that we explored. And that's because climate is so important that we explore climate within each of those themes that I mentioned. And at the same time, we seek to promote inclusive processes. And I think that is, again, exemplary in the fact that we held a demand-driven exercise back in March, where we listened to what local stakeholders from government, from civil society, from the private sector need and what they're interested in the region. And the Mekong U.S. Partnership is a partnership. So this first conference also focused on building new partnerships, and conferences moving forward, which will focus on each of those particular themes, one each, are going to forge even greater partnerships. We're going to bring more US-based stakeholders to future conferences and to bridge these gaps and to build new connections between the United States, between development partners and stakeholders in the region, government and non-government. Some of the recommendations that came from this report, and I encourage you all to read it. My colleague Courtney Weatherby will drop the link to the report in the chat box. There was a lot of focus on sectoral opportunities, particularly in the renewable energy transition, and how there are numerous benefits that can come economic, environmentally, as well as other benefits from promoting solar, wind, smart energy planning in the region. When you read the report, you also see focus on certain landscapes, areas of importance that are not just important for individual countries, but for the entire region. So you'll see emphasis on preserving the fisheries and the floodplain of the Tonle Sap, and promoting agricultural productivity in the Mekong Delta in the face of mounting climate change challenges, as well as challenges from poor planning related to local planning, as well as impacts of upstream dams. And finally, when you look into the report, you'll see emphasis on strengthening regional systems and the role that the US development partners and local governments and non-government stakeholders can provide in countering wildlife trafficking, reducing illicit drug trafficking and human trafficking, and very importantly and immediately, collaboration on the pandemic response in the region. So it was a great opportunity over these 4 days to learn and to listen and to distill and generate a long set of policy recommendations that will further guide US stakeholders, government and non-government in the region. And with that, I'm going to turn the microphone, the virtual microphone, over to Senior Bureau Official Kim Moy, who's going to talk more about the importance of the Mekong-US partnership. And as a brief introduction, immediately prior to this appointment, Mr. Moy was the Acting Assistant Secretary of State in the Bureau of Intelligence and Research. He's been a Foreign Service officer for 29 years, and he's had a wider range of appointments in the Asia-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific. So Senior Bureau Official Kim Moy, thank you for coming this morning, and over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. You know, it's really thrilling for me to join everyone here. I want to, first of all, recognize some of our distinguished guests, Ambassador Chum Sunri of Cambodia, Ambassador Hakim Nok of Vietnam, and Deputy Head of Mission Chantalat of the Lao People's Democratic Republic. Fellow panelists and those watching, good evening and good morning from Washington, D.C. A big thank you goes out to the Stimson Center and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature for your work organizing and convening fruitful discussions last March as part of the first of 7 Mekong-US Partnership Policy Dialogue events. It's my honor to deliver opening remarks along with Ambassador Chum Sunri. I am pleased to be here to celebrate not only the report's launch, and I have a prop here so everyone can see this, very colorful. It's and the content is very interesting, so please go through it. But not only to support the report's launch, but we're also celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Mekong-US partnership, and
We're having some technical difficulty. Hopefully we can resume SBO Kim Moy's speech very soon. I know he has a limited schedule today. Perhaps we should move on to Ambassador Chum Sunri's speech, and if SBO Kim Moy can rejoin us, we will invite him to do so. Ambassador Chum Sunri has been Cambodia's ambassador to the United States since June 2018. And before that, he was the Undersecretary of State in Cambodia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. He's a great friend to the Mekong, great friend to the Stimson Center. And Excellency Chum Sunri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for your kind introduction. Dr. Brian Eiler, Senior Fellow and Director, Energy, Water and Sustainability, Southeast Asia, Stimson Center. Mr. Ken Moy, Senior Bureau Officer, Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, U.S. Department of State. His Excellency Hakim, Ambassador of Vietnam. Mr. Buntanongsak Chantalat, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Laos PDR. Distinguished guests. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Stimson Center for the invitation extended to me to deliver my remarks together with Mr. Ken Moy and Ambassador Hakim. Cambodia welcomes and appreciates the U.S. engagement with the Mekong countries in the framework of Mekong-U.S. partnership, as well as in the Friends of Mekong platform. May I recall with high appreciation the U.S. engagement with the Mekong countries in the framework of Lower Mekong Initiative, during which the United States has provided us with nearly $3.5 billion development assistance from 2009 to 2020. The activities and programs under the Lower Mekong Initiative framework have contributed significantly to the socio-economic development in the Mekong sub-region. In order to expand the long-standing relationship, the Mekong countries, together with the United States, have launched on September last year the Mekong-U.S. partnership, marking another historical milestone of partnership between the sub-region and the United States. Sustainable water, natural resources management, and environmental conservation and protection were among the expanding areas of cooperation in the framework of this partnership. The U.S. has committed more than $153 million for this new partnership through various projects such as infrastructure and energy investment, water security and transboundary river management, and human resource development. The recent virtual second Mekong-U.S. ministerial meeting, co-chaired by Cambodia Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn and U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, took stock of more than a decade of strong friendship and cooperation between the Mekong countries and the United States, and adopted the Mekong-U.S. Partnership's new Plan of Action 2021-2023, focusing on strengthening connectivity, economic integration, good governance, and narrowing the development gap in the sub-region through 4 priority areas of cooperation, namely 1. Economic connectivity, 2. Sustainable water resource management, natural resource management, conservation and environmental protection, 3. Non-traditional security, and 4. Human resource development. The Mekong Foreign Ministers and the U.S. Secretary of State reiterated the need for continued cooperation in eradicating the COVID-19 pandemic, preventing future outbreaks, and post-COVID-19 recovery. Meanwhile, the Mekong Foreign Minister thanked the United States for pledging $52 million in assistance to the Mekong countries. In terms of the overall direction of the Mekong-U.S. partnership, Cambodia is of the view that we need to retain and build upon the legacy of the Lower Mekong Initiative, which focus on economic, social, human resources, climate change, and environmental issues. In this connection, Cambodia is encouraged by the similarities between the Cambodian position on the areas of cooperation as reflected in the new Plan of Action. in terms of economic and trade. The Mekong countries are encouraged by noting that the Mekong-US partnership has significantly been enhanced last year, as the US export around $26 billion in goods and services to the sub-region and imports around $90 billion. However, Cambodia is of the view that more needs to be done to maximize the due potentials of the Mekong region, which has collectively population of 240 million, 40% of whom are the young labor force below 25 years old. In this regard, Cambodia is hoping to see more private sector engagement in order to boost economic growth during and after the pandemic. In terms of women empowerment and gender equality, Cambodia welcomes the initiative to establish gender equality policy series, which focus on 1. Women economic empowerment with an emphasis on post-COVID recovery and the climate crisis. 2. Women, peace and security with a focus on women leadership. And 3. Preventing and responding to gender-based violence. Cambodia, through the Ministry of Women Affairs, is ready to collaborate with the United States and other Mekong countries to work on this broad agenda. In terms of energy security and its indispensable role in economic development, the Mekong-US partnership is in a privileged and advantageous position with the existing US-Japan Mekong Power Partnership. Cambodia stands ready to cooperate with the US and Japan to advance the power sector in the region. In terms of the fight against the pandemic, Cambodia sent the United States for its donation of vaccine through the COVAX facility to the Mekong countries, including 1 million doses to Cambodia. This clearly reflects the strong commitment of the United States to both public health and to maintaining and promoting the well-being of the people in the sub-region. For the friends of the Mekong, Cambodia attached great significance to this cooperation as it serves as a unique platform for Mekong countries and friends to drive forward practical development efforts based on shared principles and values. Cambodia welcomes the contribution of all friends of the Mekong in human resource development, particularly the specialized technical capacity building programs. Cambodia has noted with appreciation that friends of Mekong members have so far provided their support to the sub-region in a number of priority areas, including socio-economic development, health, climate, environment, water energy, food security, natural resources management, sustainable infrastructure, digital transformation, and human development, all of which focus on advancing a green and sustainable recovery from COVID-19. Cambodia welcomes the agreement reached during the recent Friends of the Mekong ministerial meeting chaired by Secretary of State Blinken to increase cooperation among members as well as in other regional Mekong mechanisms to strengthen recovery, resilience, and development across the Mekong region, and reiterated their shared commitment to achieve the goals set forth in the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and to fully implement the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Before concluding my remarks, I would like to express my appreciation to the Stimson Center, the IUCN, and the Department of State, as well as the experts for their hard work to explore solutions to key policy and sustainability challenges in this lower Mekong, as well as to produce this interesting summary report of the Mekong-US Partnership Chapter 1.5 Policy Dialogue. I would also like to confirm that this report, particularly the recommendation, will be made known to the Cambodian competent authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Chum Soon-ri. And again, thank you for being such a great friend to the Stimson Center over the years, as well as a representative for the Mekong. As we know, Cambodia is a Mekong country, and what happens in the Mekong happens to Cambodia and vice versa. So we look forward to working with you in the future on continued collaboration. Another really important ambassador to the Mekong is Ambassador Hakim Nop. I've introduced Ambassador Hakim Nop several times on public events over the last year since he joined the mission here in Washington in 2018. And we've recently learned that he's winding down his tour and will be moving on to new positions in the future. So I just want to take this opportunity to extend a deep thank you to Ambassador Hakim Nop. I'm not sure how many other opportunities we'll have to give you, to praise you publicly for thanks for collaboration on Mekong issues and war legacy issues and the US-Vietnam bilateral relationship. So again, many thanks, Ambassador Hakim Nop, and over to you for your comments.
Thank you, Brian Ayler, for your kind words. Mr. Kin Moy, the Senior Bureau Official, Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, Department of State, Ambassador Chum Soon-ri of Cambodia, DSM Chantala of Laos Embassy, Mr. James Compton from USAID, distinguished participants. First of all, let me join our ambassador from Cambodia, Chum Soon-ri, to thank Mr. Brian Ayler and the Stimson Center for the inviting me to this important event today. I warmly congratulate Brian and his Mekong team for the success of the first Mekong-US Partnership Track 1.5 Policy Dialogue last March, from which we have the insightful report launched today. My special thanks go to Mr. Kin Moy, the State Department, and other US partners for your great support and cooperation dedicated to the Mekong sub-region. I very much appreciate the insight shared by Ambassador Chum Soon-ri. I think like the mighty Mississippi River in the United States, the Mekong River has an important place in the regional developments in the past, at the present, and in the future. For thousands of years, Mekong River has provided a route for trade and travel, connecting people and cultures, watering vast rice fields and deltas, and serving as important protein intake for millions of people. And I like the backdrop behind Brian. It looks like you were sitting on a boat traveling along the river. So therefore, the announcement of the Mekong-US Partnership last year was an important milestone that showed the strong engagement and leadership of the United States. From the Lower Mekong Initiative to the Mekong-US Partnership, the United States has become a more and more important development partner for the Mekong sub-region, as Ambassador Chum Soon-ri just mentioned. We are grateful for the US contribution and assistance to Mekong countries since 2009, which has amounted to $4.3 billion by 2021, and covered a wide range of areas, including economic connectivity, energy, climate security, human capital development, transboundary water and natural resources management, and non-traditional security. In particular, during this challenging time of COVID-19 pandemic, cooperation has been expanded to health security. We appreciate the United States' invaluable donation of millions of doses of vaccines to all the Mekong countries. And it is my strong conviction that together we will soon overcome this pandemic. As a downstream country, Vietnam is strongly committed to working closely with other Mekong countries, the United States, as well as other partners to promote cooperation and sustainable development in the Mekong sub-region. We are committed to the effective implementation of the MUSP Plan of Action adopted in August and the flagship projects contained therein, including Track 1.5 Policy Dialogue, which provides the fruit that we are enjoying today. I very much look forward to future policy dialogues, bringing together government officials, researchers, experts, and businesses to generate insights and ideas around key policy sustainability challenges. We also believe that a strong, resilient, and prosperous Mekong sub-region will greatly benefit ASEAN and the region as a whole. However, it is a fact that along the Mekong River, many areas are still underdeveloped. Aware of this, last year, as ASEAN Chair, Vietnam worked closely with other ASEAN member states, partners, and friends to promote the cooperation for narrowing development gap and promoting sustainable development in the Mekong sub-region in ASEAN's agenda. We believe that ASEAN has an important role to play in the Mekong sub-region development. ASEAN needs to integrate Mekong priorities into the broader community building agenda towards an inclusive, people-oriented, people-centered ASEAN community that leaves no one behind. On the way forward, I'm glad to see that the summary report of the first policy dialogue has provided us with great insight. From the summary report, I would like to share some of my thoughts as following. First, there is much untapped potential for cooperation in infrastructure development, digital economy, clean and renewable energy. We welcome the United States DFC to invest and catalyze more financing in Mekong infrastructure and hope that many new projects will be launched in the near future. We also welcome and encourage the US private sector to engage and invest more in region, including via the public-private partnership, as Ambassador Chum Sonri mentioned. It would be great if we could see some pilot project from the United States in the areas of infrastructure or renewable energy, which would help solidify US commitment and presence in the region. Second, in the face of the existential threat of climate change, efforts must be redoubled to strengthen the Mekong River's basin's resilience and adaptation to climate change, as well as enhancing transboundary water management. With particular regard to the transboundary water management, it is very important that data and information be provided and shared in a timely, transparent, and reliable manner. In this line, I very much appreciate Mekong Dam Monitor Project led by Director Brian Eiler, which helps provide near real-time data on the situation of the Mekong River, thus promoting Mekong countries' mutual interest. Third, as I have mentioned on several occasions, we should work harder to enhance the synergy between the MUSP with other Mekong frameworks, including Mekong Japan, Mekong ROK, Mekong Ganga, and the Mekong Lankan cooperation. This would reduce overlapping and redundancies while maximizing the benefits to the people. We hope that the MUSP will play a leading role in this regard by serving as an example for cooperation in the Mekong sub-region. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Nop. And I agree with that recommendation for the US and development partners to have a signature infrastructure project in the region. Hopefully, the Development Finance Corporation and other stakeholders here in Washington can drive one of those signature projects forward. And I believe there are several in development, and we'll be hearing on those soon. Thank you for your remarks. Now we're going to turn the mic over to DCM Chantalat from the Lao PDR, who is also calling in from here in Washington, DC. DCM Chantalat.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Good morning, Mr. Brian, Chair of the today meeting, distinguished Ambassador Hakim Ngo of Vietnam, Ambassador Jom Sonri of Cambodia, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the U.S. Department of State and the Stimson Center for launching the summary report on the Mekong-U.S. Partnership Track 1.5 Policy Dialogue today. I would like to congratulate the Stimson Center and the International Union of Nature on the successful launching of the first Mekong-U.S. Partnership Policy Dialogue held in March this year, which provides an important platform for further discussions on the areas of cooperation on the Mekong-U.S. Partnership, as well as providing an opportunity for local stakeholders to provide useful recommendations across topics related to Mekong connectivity, regional energy integration, infrastructure, non-traditional security, water governance, and nature-based solutions. In this regard, on behalf of the people and the government of the Lao PDR, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the United States of America for financial and technical support extended to the Mekong countries, including the Lao PDR, especially for the implementation of the projects and programs under the Mekong-U.S. Partnership, which will contribute greatly to the socio-economic development of the Mekong countries, as well as the Lao PDR. I am pleased to note that the successful outcome of the second Mekong-U.S. Partnership Ministerial meeting conducted last month has contributed significantly to promoting the implementation of the Mekong-U.S. Partnership, especially the implementation of the Mekong-U.S. Partnership Plan of Action 2021-2023. Mr. Chair, I am pleased to note the progress made by the implementation of the program and projects under the area of cooperation of the Mekong-U.S. Partnership, which focuses on 4 priorities of cooperation, namely the economic activities, the sustainable water use, natural resource management, and environmental reservation and protection, non-traditional security issues, and the human resource development. The Lao PDR note with appreciation over the summary report of the Mekong-U.S. Partnership Track 1.5 Dialogue to bring together government and private sectors, experts, and other important groups from the Mekong-U.S. Partnership member countries to promote stability, peace, prosperity, sustainable development of the Mekong sub-region, and cooperation in order to address the trans-boundary challenges among the Mekong countries and the United States. The Lao PDR reaffirms its commitment to work closely with all Mekong-U.S. Partnership member countries toward the realization of the outcomes of the second Mekong-U.S. Partnership Foreign Minister meeting to ensure that the new partnership will further bring concrete outcomes in the coming years. May I conclude my remarks by wishing Mr. Chair, Ambassador from Mekong countries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, great success in your noble task and the meeting achieve productive outputs and achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DCM Chantalat. and sabai to you, kap chai lai lai. We all know, many of us here in Washington know that getting a Mekong policy right in the United States is also about getting the US-Lao bilateral relationship right. And, it's just a delight this year in 2021 to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the partnership, of the new comprehensive partnership between the United States and Laos. And we look forward to further celebrations and forwarding that relationship in the years to come. Thank you again for attending today.
Thank you.
We're going to move now to my good friend, Ms. Nguy Thi Khanh, who's calling in from Hanoi. Nguy Thi Khanh is the Executive Director of Green ID. And if you've been paying attention to renewable energy developments in mainland Southeast Asia, in ASEAN or in the Indo-Pacific at large, you'll know that Vietnam has had a major expansion of solar sector development in the last 2 years. And a lot of that is responsible and can be accredited to Ms. Nguy Thi Khanh there at Green ID. She is the winner of the 2018 Goldman Award and is a true champion of sustainability and renewable energy in Vietnam. And she also spoke at our first Track 1.5 conference in March. Khanh, over to you.
Thank you, Brian, and good evening, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to join the dialogue and also have the chance to engage with our excellencies from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the 3 important countries in the lower Mekong region. I'm very happy to see that through the facilitation of Stimson Center, cooperation between US and the lower Mekong country is strengthened, and it helps us to have more data to support for the dialogue. And also I hope that the challenge we all are facing now on the energy demand, water demand, and also ensuring food security will be solved in solidarity and in cooperation. I still remember 10 years ago, I was working very hard with many other colleagues in the Mekong region to alarm, to discuss and to organize dialogue on the challenge of development of the mainstream dam for not only Vietnam but also for riverine community along the Mekong River. And at that time, we proposed to the government of the Mekong region to defer 10 years, to take more study to understand the river ecosystem. When we have more data, we can also make informed decision, and also we buy the time to maximize the technology. And I think that after 10 years, we see that scientists and also effort from many government officers at that time is value, because as you may know that we are now in a moment where we have to cope with multiple challenge, including climate change, health impact. The disease is the disease that all the population in the world are facing nowadays were alarmed by scientists some years ago, but it was not attention enough. When it happened, we see that the damage and the consequence is over our control. So I think that we can learn from the past, we learn from the history, but we need to do differently. So I think that when we talk about the Mekong rivers, sustainable development, I thought that nowadays we have more opportunity and we have a more choice than 10 years ago of like the energy development. I joined some discussion at ASEAN and also the Mekong region, and we just learned from Thailand, right? How Thailand are considering their like coming decades on the energy and how energy, water, and food nexus need to be taken into account. And I think that what happened in Vietnam also show a lot of lesson for not only Vietnam but also for our region. 5 years ago, the power plant in Vietnam didn't taken into account solar in the planning. Yeah. So it projected that by this year, it aimed only 850 megawatt of solar. But you see, until the end of by the end of last year, we have already more than 16,000 megawatt of solar connected to the grid. So it like achieved the targets 5 years ahead, but with also higher like capacity. It shows that the technology and new markets design will help us to find the way to meet our energy demand. And I think that the more technology develop, the more chance for us to take the innovation approach into our water, energy, and food nexus in our region. I think that nowadays floating solution combining with existing hydropower in many tributary could be the best alternative for cascade large hydropower dam and also coal power. If we take into account climate change impact, health impact, that is wisdom investment. I believe and I hope that U.S. investor and also U.S. government will pay attention to accelerate this transfer of technology and also the cooperation to help the Mekong region to have a solution and help us to be able to achieve our goal of sustainable Mekong region development by not like trade off our health, our environment for the future generation. So we hope that we can go along this journey, and I believe that each person can contribute the idea and can accelerate the collaboration because everyone counts. And I believe that we can foster the cooperation in the region and also between US with each country and the region. But last but not least, I do hope that US will help our region to move to clean energy, not fossil fuel. So that is my message.
Thank you, Kyan. And I think that your work to advocate for, again, the rapid expansion of solar in Vietnam and in the region and discussion of important environmental trade-offs is the perfect example of civil society at work in the region and an example of how civil society can interact with ministries and government stakeholders in Vietnam and throughout the rest of the region to drive change. And finally, it's also an example of how patience and effort really pays off. So kudos to you, and please keep up the good work. It's really paying off for Vietnam and the region. Now we're going to move over to Mr. James Compton, who's also calling in from Hanoi. James Compton is the project lead on USAID Wildlife Traps, which is a project that's jointly implemented between Traffic and IUCN and focuses on reducing zoonotic spillover risks from wildlife trade using a supply chain analysis approach to identify critical actors and human-animal interfaces And they're looking to improve existing systems and shift human behaviors away from high-risk practices towards safe, more sustainable and legal alternatives that contribute to the security of health, food, environment, and sustainable development. James has been working on trade in wild animals and plants in Asia for over 20 years at a variety of levels. Now he helms the USAID Wildlife Traps Project, hard at work in the region. James, over to you. James was here, and he might have.
Unfortunately, I think James has been having some connectivity issues as similar as Kinmoy did. So we may have to just move to the discussion since I'm not sure we'll be able to get him back online.
Okay, let's see if James can rejoin. But in the meantime, while we still have 4 of our panelists who are all representative of key Mekong stakeholders here in the region, I'll just again offer an opportunity for you to any of you to share some priorities that, okay, here comes James. Let's see if James, can you hear us? James, can you hear us?
His audio hasn't connected yet, so we should probably just go ahead and proceed with sort of a little bit of discussion as you're about to, Brian, and once he gets connected, he can jump in with audio.
Okay, great. Just to provide another opportunity to the ambassadors, to DCM Chantalat, to Hakim, to discuss some of what are your, I guess, wishes or what are your top priorities that you would like to see the U.S. achieve with engaging in the Mekong. This is another opportunity to reiterate those that you mentioned or talk about some new opportunity areas. Kane, I saw that
you call me?
Go ahead, Kane. Thank you.
Oh, yes. So because I am working on climate and decarbonization, and I see that the new administration of Mr. Joe Biden bring a lot of hope for climate, and the effort happen recently in US, showing the US leadership again, on climate. So we do hope that with the really bilateral and regional relationship strengthened in the next 5 years. I do hope that the climate diplomacy and energy diplomacy will be strengthened. And I think that every country are now developing new strategy to adapt to new context. And I think it's very great momentum for optimize the support or the collaboration for win-win. US cannot achieve their target for leading the world on climate if it continue to transfer or accelerate the investment on fossil fuel. That is the first thing I think that we should avoid. The second thing is the US also make a lot of effort on clean energy. And recently, I see that President Joe Biden called the developed country to remove the property rights for vaccine production. I think that's it also similar thing. We should accelerate for technology transfer, because to be able to achieve the goal of our world, so we need to do more than the developing country like us in the region. We are facing a lot of challenge, but with the transfer of technology, it can help us to build our clean energy industry, to boost our economy in the greener way. So I think that is I hope, and I also expect that US will strengthen that part in the collaboration between the region.
Thank you, Ms. Kang. Thank you so much. Ambassador, I saw that you raised your hand, but James Compton has called in. We're going to try and see if we can hear from James, and we'll come back to you, Ambassador Nok. James, over to you.
Thank you for your patience, Chair, and greetings, Excellencies and fellow panelists. It's a very important opportunity to have this chance to talk with you. Been very impressed by the report that you've shared about the Mekong-US dialogue, and particularly the chapter about non-traditional security, which intersects with my work. I work for an NGO called Traffic. I'm implementing a USAID-funded project at the moment that looks at the intersection between trade in wildlife and managing for zoonotic disease risk reduction. So I think that it intersects very clearly with the two areas that have been discussed under this dialogue, looking at countering transnational organised crime, as well as implications for pandemic and recovery and health security. From reading the report and thinking about what I'm observing here based in Southeast Asia, it really seems to be about the opportunities around managing against the loss of revenue in terms of natural capital and the loss of ecosystem services, and how those can be perhaps turned around with partnerships between Mekong countries, as well as how the US can be part of a multilateral response. There's definitely threats to national security from transnational organised crime and illegal activity. But I think more importantly, sometimes the issues of environmental security, whether that's about forests or freshwater or marine resources, get overlooked, and those are interlinked with health security and medicinal security in terms of the resources that can be exploited in a sustainable way, and that how that natural resource base is managed, how a sustainable development platform can take into account the importance of reversing ecosystem degradation and taking into account the livelihoods and socioeconomic development priorities as well as opportunities. So that balance, I think, needs to be considered very seriously. And where it comes to the work that I've been doing under this USAID-sponsored project, including a coordinated One Health response, so bringing the environmental health together with animal health, including wildlife, and the public health aspects that we're seeing now have such a huge economic impact when we consider this pandemic and how to get out of it. But I think that this crisis that we're in right now can be an inflection point for more risk-based decision-making, more considered risk-based decision-making, and that good natural resource management can be part of a post-COVID economic and societal recovery. I think that it will depend on resource, the technical resources, the financial resources that are really necessary to manage and to nurture natural capital as an asset in the Mekong countries. In terms of the countering of transnational organised crime, detecting and disrupting illegal activity, as well as preventing that, also links to other bad practices that may impact the health security in particular when we think about disease risk reduction and preventing the next pandemic. If there can be standard operating procedures and practical criteria that are understood and clearly how resources are harvested how they're used, how they're traded, I think that that is something that could be shared between the Mekong countries in terms of standards. And this also goes further upstream in terms of land use planning and access and benefit sharing of these resources. I want to finish by focusing on what we've been looking at in terms of the health risk management related to human-wildlife interactions, and that is on critical control points where the risk may be greatest. And if those can be prioritised, risks can be reduced, and then the resource allocation towards compliance and enforcement can be properly directed. The last point I'd like to make is that what I've been learning in my work with various countries in Asia and Africa is that this management of disease risk that we're dealing with globally right now and how it may be characterized is really about managing human behavior. So I think we have to remember that responses that will increase the non-traditional security elements in this region will have to take into consideration the context in which we're working, the socio-economic context, the political, the societal structures, but also the cultural reference points that are going to get people responding collectively, but also in a positive and practical direction. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion, Chair. I'll stop here.
Thank you, James, and all the best on managing this important project from USAID on reducing those connections between zoonotic disease and humans, as well as reducing trafficking of wildlife in the region. It's a critically important issue, and one that fits under the umbrella of non-traditional security issues that the Mekong-US partnership will examine into the future, and specifically through its own dedicated Track 1.5 dialogue here further on down the road. So thanks again for calling in from Vietnam. I do remember that Ambassador Ngoc raised his hand, and he had a thought to share with us, and this might be our final thought to share on how the U.S. can further prioritize its engagement with the Mekong countries. Ambassador Ngoc, over to you.
Yeah.
Final comment.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. Before giving my comment, let me express our thanks also to International Union for Conservation of Nature for their great work in preparing the report. For the priority in the Mekong-US partnership, I expect that the United States will focus on one or two pilot projects. For example, the solar energy, connecting Lower Mekong countries, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and even with Thailand. And I think, as Thuy Khanh said, now we have more opportunities and choices. And I think the Lower Mekong countries are ready to work with the United States on that project. And second, you can mobilize the financial resources and technical assistance from Japan, from Republic of Korea, and other partners. So it will be a multilateral project. And also we can engage the private sector, as Ambassador Chum Sonri already mentioned. So in the immediate time, please focus on just one or two projects and make it a model, you know, for Mekong-US partnership, and that will show the effectiveness and also the commitment from the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Ngoc, for re-stressing the need for an important pilot project. Emphasizing.
1 minute.
Sure, Ambassador Chum Sonri, please.
Yes, thank you. I would like to share the view expressed by Ambassador Hakim, especially my support for his request concerning the priority for the Mekong countries, the solar energy. I share his view that the development of solar energy in our region is very, very important. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I remember not too long ago, my colleague Courtney Weatherby and I traveled to the region speaking about the promises of solar power in the region. And in many ways, like Ms. Kang noted years ago, solar was not included in the power development plan. Just a few years ago, there was very little enthusiasm about solar in the region and the multiple benefits that it can provide. And now to hear from Ambassador Nop and to hear from you, Ambassador Chum Sung-ri, about how solar is so important as a priority development sector for the region and for US engagement. It's great to see this turnaround and to hear this coming from all of you in the region. We've come to the end of our hour. Unfortunately, SBO Kin Moy had some connectivity issues, and he has promised to send a video of his message, which we will then splice into the video recording of this event. And if there are other ways to share his remarks with all of you, we will do that. To talk about moving forward, this report is the first of 7 reports that will be launched that each come from a conference that engage stakeholders, government and non-government from the region, from development partner countries, and from the United States on a critical set of issues. And we're going to have another Track 1.5 policy dialogue in October. It will begin on October 19th and run through October 26th over 4 half days. Those dates that I gave are the Bangkok or ICT Mekong time. This conference will focus on energy and infrastructure opportunities. And we are looking forward to bring numerous private sector stakeholders from the United States, as well as stakeholders from government and non-government sectors to engage with Mekong participants and development partner participants on that important discussion. So until then, we will say so long to everyone, and hopefully we can reconvene after that conference for another report launch and invite some of you back. Ambassadors, thank you so much for coming today. Kang, James Compton, and DCM Chantalat, thank you so much. I encourage everyone listening to check out our report and keep following the Mekong US partnership. Thank you so much. Take care and goodbye.